Well, good morning, everybody. I'd like to welcome you all to the GDAC meeting this morning. We're Zooming the meeting, obviously. And just to start the meeting off, I'd like to first welcome Devin to the committee. Really looking forward to your participation, your expertise, and being part of our committee, Devin. Welcome. So
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I also would like to just take a second to thank Nancy Simon for all her dedicated years and work. And I'll tell you, she was just she was a pillar for GDAC, her involvement and her hard work. And again, so thank you very much, Nancy, for all your work. So I'd like to call the meeting to order. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest from anybody? Any hands going up? So that's great. Thank you. Can we get a approval of the agenda?
Yeah, absolutely. So the motion that's been prepared has been moved by Michael, and hopefully that's okay, Michael, still. That resolved that the agenda for the Grimsby Economic Development Advisory Committee meeting of November 18th be approved as amended, and it will be the addition of a new business item for the Heritage District Study and the impact on economic development. So that's the motion before you. I just need a seconder.
Okay. Do we have a seconder? Richard? Thank you. So all in favor to the motion? Show of hands. Thank you. That is carried. Our next item is delegations. I don't believe that we have any delegations today.
Not today.
Okay. And then our next item on the agenda is reports.
And we have no official reports today or official resolutions. So we actually have a correspondence package.
Okay, very good. All righty. So with correspondence, we can go right to the red grant public approval. So I think I'll let Devin. You can move forward with that one. Adam, is that who we're
Sure.
looking? Yeah. Okay.
Sure. I can speak to that. I just wanted to inform everyone that we have finally, it's been sort of a long time coming, been able to announce the approval of our red grant for our BR&E initiative. So that's very exciting because it really now allows us to activate the program. There was a thought early on that until we got the formal okay to announce that we wanted to just be cautious not to overextend in case for whatever reason something happened. So now we are in a position to start activating that initiative. And I just wanted everyone to know that that is now a public, it's been publicly announced, so you can feel free to share that with anyone that might find that of interest. So just wanted to point out that we are on the province's website, and the correspondence is just highlighting that we are shown on the province's website.
Are there any comments from any committee members? Sorry.
Woohoo!
And it's early this morning too, right? Yeah. No, that's a great.
Actually, Dave, we should probably informally or formally send a thank you to Kelly Prevo for her help in writing the grant. So I don't know if we need a motion to do that or if you just want to reach out, but now that it's formally awarded, we should formally send a thank you.
Sure. So if you're okay, Richard, I will draft that motion. So it will read that resolved that the correspondence with reference to red BR&E grant public approval be received and that a formal thank you be submitted to Kelly.
Sure. Sounds good.
I need a seconder for that motion. Perfect. And Councillor Cadwell, I'll let you call the vote.
Yeah, okay. To the committee, all in favor of the motion? Show of hands, great. I can only see a few hands, but the quorum approved it, so I'm sure everybody did. Thank you.
If I could, Chair Cadwell,
Sure.
I'd be happy to draft that and then send you a version to review, just to help with administration.
That sounds great. All right. The other part B to the correspondence, the Niagara Public Health announcement, section 22, dated November 12th, 2020. Adam, did you want to address that? Or yeah.
Sure. So I think it's pretty top of mind for everyone currently. It's in the news. It's on the radio. The province, through the public health department, made an announcement through the chief medical officer that he was going to invoke section 22 to allow for the implementation of an order, most specifically impacting the food and beverage or restaurant industry. So that was put to the market very quickly, and feedback came fast and furious. A lot of the local business owners, restaurant owners, had concern. There was a bit of confusion in the way certain things were worded, and then the province came out with their move to move Niagara into the orange stage, and so a little bit of confusion in terms of the overlap with the regulations. So I've been dealing with Rebecca at the Chamber and Mike at the DIA to make sure that there's some information going out. They've been amazing at getting that word out, and I just thought we put it on the table in case anybody had any specific feedback on it. I think today at the region there is a special meeting to address this issue. There are some groups that have formed to sort of lobby, and there's a community or two that is taking a formal approach to addressing or approaching the public health and see if there's an opportunity to revisit this order. So it's for information purposes. I'm sure you've all sort of picked up on it tangentially here and there. So I just thought I'd put it on as correspondence so you could see if you hadn't the very specific nuances of the order.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. If I may, I'd like to hear from Rebecca through the Chamber's perspective. And again, I think if anybody wants to add comments, please jump in. Rebecca?
Thank you, Councillor Cadwell. Yes, we had discussions. I've had numerous discussions with several businesses, including one of the groups that has formed. And officially, the Grimsby Chamber's position is that we support the rescinding of Section 22 in that it unfairly targets one particular sector, the F&B industry, and doesn't address any other potential causes of spread that we're seeing in Niagara. We encourage public health to release the data so that we can all be rest assured that the decisions being made are data-driven decisions. And we also strongly urge all residents and businesses to do everything they can to stop the spread by following proper hand hygiene, physical distancing, and wearing masks. That's our official position at the Chamber. We understand that all businesses have been impacted horrifically by this. The economic fallout from the lockdown measures, right from March onward, the F&B industry in particular has been devastated. And I think we'd just like to see an equal playing field for everyone to make sure that the decisions, we need to see the data. We'd like to make sure that, if restaurants are accounting for 60% of the spread, sure, does it make sense for those extra measures? If they're not, and it's a 4%, I find it hard to stand behind justification for those restrictions. And very clearly as well that we are in no way, shape, or form behind any personal attacks on anyone in public health. That is probably the most thankless job next to anyone in government these days. So we commend Dr. Hirji for the work that he's trying to do, and would like to just make sure that the restrictions in place make sense based on the data.
That's great. Thank you very much for that, your comments there, Rebecca. And I agree wholeheartedly too. So yeah, I'd like to open it up to the rest of the committee. If anybody has any thoughts or discussion to it, feel free to. I think the best way to do it, on your computer, if we can just hit raise your hand, and then we can move forward, and Devin can control that part of it then. All right. Look forward to hearing from people. Thank you. Are we good to go with this? Nobody has any comments to add? I'm just looking at the the sidebar here, not seeing anybody. So we're okay to move forward then?
We could just get a motion, a mover and a seconder to receive the correspondence for information. That'd be great.
Okay. Can we get a mover and a seconder to the motion then? I'll let you, Devin, you can see everybody.
Sure, can I get a mover? Councilor Ritchie? And a seconder, please. Anyone, don't be shy. Thank you. And a vote on resolved that the correspondence with reference to Niagara Public Health Announcement Section 22 be received. A show
All
of
in favor?
hands.
Sorry.
Perfect, thank you.
All righty, moving forward on the agenda, number 8 is new business. So we have committee member updates. Adam, would you like to take a lead on that for us? Thank you.
If it's past practice or regular practice to have as new business an opportunity for the members of the committee to bring some quick updates, but I thought given it's our second official meeting and because we've had some back and forth offline, I would just give the committee, or I'd like to give the committee the opportunity to have a minute or two to maybe bring up anything that they find or they think that the committee should hear or is just interested in advancing or has information for information purposes. And then I will follow up as item B with a staff update. So if anyone in the committee has anything they want to table or bring up or discuss quickly.
Everybody's so quiet this morning. Okay, I've got an idea, but I'll bring that up a little bit later, Adam, for the committee. But I'll let you continue on with the staff updates then. Okay.
So as we just spoke, the Section 22 order that was enacted by the Public Health of the Niagara region is something that we've been dealing with. There's been outreach, there's been ongoing communication and dialogue internally, but also with restaurateurs in the town, with Rebecca at the chamber, Mike at the DIA. So I think we've touched on that. The other item that I'd like to mention is that recently was able to secure $10,000 in grant funding through Niagara Region through their what they call LAM fund, their local area municipality fund. So I submitted an application. The funds are directed towards sort of bootstrapping the funding we got through the RED program for BR&E. So now we have a pool of $40,000 total for the program. There are some specific metrics and sort of within the application through RED, there's a bit of an area where the LAM funding is going to be directed, but it's all part and parcel of the BR&E work that we're going to be embarking on. So, essentially we were able to augment the RED funding by $10,000. So now we have a bit of a more robust pool of funds to draw on to really make sure that we can get out into the business community in a meaningful way, and that we have the resources to be able to enact any of the findings or any of the outcomes that we get from our engagement with them through the process. So just wanted to put that on the table, let you all know about that. It's a good opportunity to again increase our capacity to manage that program.
Good.
I don't recall if we had discussed it, at least maybe we did tangentially or in a minor way, but we were also able to secure funding through the Digital Main Street Initiative. So I don't know if you all know what the Digital Main Street Initiative is, but it's an initiative put on by the Ontario the Ontario Board of Business Associations, Business Improvement Associations in the province of Ontario. And it's intended to help Main Street businesses bring their business online, strengthen their digital presence. So this has been going on for a few years now, but within the COVID context, it's especially relevant. So we were able to secure funding to hire a digital service squad member. That person started on last Monday and is now out in the community, sort of knocking on doors and meeting with business owners, helping them to make application to a grant fund that's available through the program for $2,500 to help implement any of the digitization, digital transformation work that's identified in the engagement with the service squad member. So we're looking forward to seeing people access that grant. The focus for the next number of weeks is really on encouraging application and helping to support the business as they develop and submit their application. We want to help them position their application for success and ensure that they're able to leverage those funds so that when the time comes to implement what they've been working with the digital service squad member on, they have some funds to help support that. So again, we started in earnest last Monday with our digital service squad member, but we had been prior to that doing some promotion of the program because the program was open regardless of whether or not the town had a service squad member. So, we were encouraging people to take a look at the program, to look into the grant process and see if they were eligible and apply. And since we've started last week, we have 4 businesses have submitted grant applications and completed them and have been approved or are awaiting approval. We have 13 businesses who have registered for the Digital Main Street program and are in the process of reviewing the program and preparing their applications. And we have 6 businesses who are taking advantage of a small of a program within Digital Main Street called Shop Here, which is really about developing and managing an online store for folks who don't have the capacity to do so on their own. So to bring their inventory, their product book online to make them more accessible. Again, given the COVID context, it's especially relevant. So those are numbers as of yesterday from Monday of last week. So, very quick wins. Our service squad member has been doing quite well. The feedback I've been getting is very positive. And the feedback I've been getting from him is that a lot of the folks he's talking to are aware of the program from, especially through the efforts of the chamber and the DIA, who have been extremely helpful getting the word out to their members and generally helping to create an awareness so that Grimsby businesses can really leverage this program and take advantage of it to its fullest potential. So we look forward to seeing those numbers climb and increase, and the program will run until the end of February. And the digital service squad member, his name is Liam McNally. He's today out on Main Street doing door knocking. The program provides all the necessary PPE, and there's contingency for going into businesses that that may not be taking the right precautions. So safety first. The program is generally very one-on-one on site, but again, given COVID, that's sort of morphed into a hybrid approach. So safety first, but there is something to be said for that on-site understanding of the business and the physicality of the business. So very early days, but we're excited about the initial progress. So I don't know if anyone has any questions about Digital Main Street. I'm happy to try and answer them.
Mike?
Hi, Adam. Just a quick question. Why was the decision made that Grimsby was doing this by ourselves and not with a larger group that's gone through the Enterprise Center in St. Catharines in the region? I believe they have like 4 or 5 other BIAs on board, or could be higher. I think they were as high as 10 at one point in time. Mm-hmm. Just to spread the dollars a little further and to get more help, because I think they have multiple staff members too doing this. So was there a reasoning that we came to the table too late, or?
Yeah, so I good question, and I'd be remiss if I forgot to mention that our application was submitted in partnership with the DIA, and essentially what happened was when I came on board, I sort of reached out to talk about where we were with this initiative because I had some really solid feedback about it, and the feedback was we hadn't been engaged yet. So looking at the schedule for the intake for the $2,500 grant program, it was imperative that we get started right away. And so we basically just took the path of least resistance and the quickest route to market to get out in front of these people and have them be have them be eligible or have them apply. So it was very much a little bit late to the game and playing a little bit of catch up. I have been in contact on probably twice weekly basis with the Enterprise Center and City of St. Catharines and their downtown coordinator to leverage some best practices and get some feedback from them on what's been working and where they've been challenged. And they were very helpful in the process of submitting the application. So while we're not a party to the application with them, we are working together, and they have been extremely supportive of our ask and of the administration and making sure we can get out and activate it ASAP.
Good, very, very good. Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Adam, did I see somewhere that funding has been extended, the application period has been extended for funding? That might have been for Hamilton. I just wonder if the same was true in Grimsby.
So we are in the process right now of engaging with the administrators of Digital Main Street. They've asked to sort of gauge our appetite to have the grant program window of intake extended past November 30th. And we very clearly have messaged that we would very much appreciate that if it's possible. I don't believe that, and I could be wrong, but I don't believe they're doing it on a market by market basis. I think it's on a program wide basis. So if it's extended, that would be an extension for all the communities involved. I could be wrong, but the ask has been made, the sort of signaling that we have an appetite to extend that has been made to the folks that administer the program.
Okay, thank you.
Ellie?
So just for clarification, you mentioned that you reached out to other organizations for feedback because they've been in the game for a bit longer than us. Can you clarify, is that feedback also shaping, is it Liam? His interaction with the community, like lessons learned, is that kind of shaping his conversations as well? Yes,
absolutely. I did spend quite a bit of time with Samir Huska from St. Catharines, who's the downtown coordinator. They are actually in their second implementation. So I was picking his brain to quite an extent. He was very good to open up and be very frank with me about where he saw issues and challenges and where in retrospect he might have done things differently, and now he's doing things differently with his team in the second iteration. So yes, there was feedback about how to approach a business, how to deal with, I don't want to say resistance, but this may be more than I can handle, and sort of going through the process of explaining how Liam is there to help and really support them through the application. So that was one. The other was some of the ways that they found value that aren't necessarily highlighted as part of the program to sort of add and bring more value. So yes, absolutely. What we're doing is sharing that. So I spoke with Samir. I also spoke with Paul Deaney in Lincoln as well. And I spoke with Carolee Grummett in Fort Erie, who's the Economic Development Officer there. They took a bit of a different approach and are doing some of the initiatives that are core to Digital Main Street, but they didn't apply directly. So we've been sharing best practices and just some of the outcomes and things like that throughout the ECDEV ecosystem in Niagara.
Great. See no other comments.
Michael,
if I may, Adam, just for clarification. So the application, when a business applies, are they allowed $2,500? Is that like a maximum amount they're allowed? Okay, just for.
Yeah, so it's a maximum of $2,500, and it's to help offset the cost of implementing the digital sort of the digital approach. So if they need some work on their website, if they need a piece of hardware to to encourage the application of the different initiatives, all those things, it's not intended to do it all for them. It's intended to help grow their capacity and resources to take this on. So there's two components. One is the financial component, and then the other is the digital advisory services that come through Liam, the service squad member.
Oh, good, great, thank you.
Councillor Cadwell, Mike Rainey wants to say something there.
Oh, I'll go ahead, Mike.
I think Allie does too. I think Allie had her hand up as well. Adam, just for some additional information, I don't know if you were privy to this, but we had a staff update on it. Currently, there's 2,000 applications in the pipeline for Digital Main Street, and they're severely behind. Today is actually the date that they were asking to be the last day for applications because they wanted to be able to read them. So I think they're pushing them because they have a huge backlog and people are still, uptaking the program a little bit. So I think everybody in the province has kind of asked them to extend it to early next year just so they can get rid of some of this. So
yeah, no, that's great feedback, and I think that's part of what sort of encouraged them to reach out to gauge that appetite. So I appreciate that feedback, and yes, I've heard that as well. So we, again, only having started in earnest last Monday, have had Liam out in the market and on the phones pretty steadily since we onboarded him. So yeah, thanks for that info.
Allie?
Do we have a notion at this point about the type of support that businesses are asking for? Is there, does it lean one way or another? What are the things that businesses are asking for most at this point?
So at this point, I haven't, from a Grimsby perspective, haven't had any feedback from Liam as yet. It really varies. Having talked to some other folks who have been involved on the business side and then on the administrative side, it varies widely depending on the sort of space that the folks are in. For some people, it's about digitizing their catalog and bringing that online to encourage more online sales. It's doing virtual tours. So part of the program allows for Liam to go in with a 360-degree camera, for example, and take 360-degree images of the bricks and mortar so that people can come in and essentially shop from the comfort of their living room, not necessarily like you shop on Amazon on a product basis, but to see what the store offers to determine if there's follow-up to be had. And it just brings to life the offering a little better for those businesses. Website is one, SEO is another one. So I think a lot of the small businesses understand the concept of SEO, or at least understand what SEO means by definition, but they don't know how to bring it to bear in a meaningful way. So I would say those are some of the more significant ways. I'm really interested to find out what some of the unique things are, and see if we can sort of build on that after the program is over, because we really want to make sure that even when this program is gone, we take the learnings and the best practices and apply them sort of in perpetuity, because I don't want this to be a one and done type of approach. We really want to help build that capacity.
Very good. Adam, if you don't mind, the correspondence with all the items, do you want to take charge there? Because I'm not there, which I will be at. I'll make sure I'm at the town hall for the next GDAS
Sure.
meeting.
Happy
So
to.
you're okay with that? You want to take
Happy to.
You can.
Sure, happy to. Thank you.
Questions? Okay. Thank you, Adam.
Sure, thank you. Alejandra?
Yes, thank you. So I was just going to agree. And the reason for my question was I'd love to see, what most businesses are asking for, where they feel that they need the most support, so that once this is done, we can continue to shape, what services, what things we're able to supports we're able to offer. Yeah. So that's fabulous.
Yeah, and in that regard, I really impressed upon Liam the need to gather the anecdotal and the qualitative feedback that we're getting from the businesses. We can look at KPIs and say, oh, we had 12 applications, or we had 10 businesses do this, or we got a 45% penetration rate, and that's all great. And I know the folks at Digital Main Street are going to want to see that. But from my perspective, and from the perspective of being able to leverage this in the future, that anecdotal feedback, understanding what is underlying some of this, or really hearing, sort of that heartfelt, I don't understand, is going to help us. So I've really impressed upon Liam the need to capture that. I think our report at the end of the program is going to address all the needs from a KPI perspective, and then it's going to be very heavy on the anecdotal perspective, not so much for the folks at Digital Main Street, but for myself, for the committee, and then I'm going to push that out and share that with the chamber and the DIA as well, so that they can use that when they're speaking with their members as well. Okay, any more questions on Digital Main Street? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Recently had opportunity to meet on site with one of Grimsby's local manufacturers. They've expanded their facility outside of Grimsby. They outgrew or sort of have out expanded their capabilities currently at their Grimsby facility. So we were able to meet with them and see what they were doing at their facility in Hamilton and have a good, hearty and candid conversation about what precipitated the need to move out of Grimsby for part of their business, and we're able to get confirmation that they have no interest and no agenda to pull the existing part of their business out of Grimsby. In fact, they are sort of revisiting the idea of expanding the bricks and mortar here in Grimsby. I mentioned that contextually, that the real takeaway and what I really wanted to share was that this manufacturer very clearly had interest in championing some of the BR&E work that we're going to be doing, and really reaching out to his contemporaries in Grimsby and in the manufacturing on the industrial side. So he's agreed to sort of champion that and reach out and say, hey, I've heard about this program. I think we should all give it a shot and get involved. So that was great. Put a little wind in the sails, got us out a little bit in front of our activation. So they're going to be warm and receptive to the idea. It's not the first time they're going to be hearing about it when we make that initial outreach. So that was really great. He's a very influential business leader. So I was very, very pleased with his willingness to do that. The other thing that came out of that meeting was an interest that he had shared with me that is near and dear to my heart from being on the board of directors of the Niagara Industrial Association in the past, which was this sort of notion that there are a lot of young people in Grimsby and in West Niagara and Niagara generally who aren't necessarily considering the skilled trades as viable career options for them. They either have preconceived notions of it being dirty or poor paying or that sort of thing, and it's just quite simply not the case. And this business owner, in fact, was pointing out staff, this person has been here this many years, they make this much, this is, there's something to it. And his challenge was how do we ensure that the students coming out of Grimsby's high schools are aware that trades are a viable option, that there are very, very exciting things happening in industry here in Grimsby. There are companies servicing a lot of very, very high profile global players right here in Grimsby. So he has sort of planted the seed with me, and it's something I'm going to be advancing. I've made an initial outreach, which is calling on the guidance and the co-op leaders at the local high schools to see if, as COVID will allow, their students may have interest in touring some of these facilities to see firsthand how clean, how advanced, how interesting and exciting the work in these facilities here in Grimsby is, that they don't have to go to Toronto to work for NASA, for example. So there are really exciting opportunities here. So we're looking at an initial sort of outreach to gauge the appetite, and then figuring out how to administer that given COVID, and then potentially working with that business owner to create a more robust and enduring program around exposing local students to the skilled trades and the opportunities that exist for them here in industry in their own backyard. So I think those two were the takeaways that I sort of appreciated most, and just thought I would share with the group. I don't know if anyone has any questions about either of those sorts of thoughts or initiatives. Alejandra?
I love the idea of bringing Grimsby businesses into the conversation. No, this conversation is much bigger than Grimsby. This conversation is happening at the provincial, national level. Conversations that I've had with larger businesses outside of Grimsby too. There's one of the biggest employers in Hamilton. One of the things that they said to me was, where their labor force is aging and they're going to be losing a lot of people. So they're reaching out to, excuse me, to the colleges to, give money and time, create programs, so I'd love to, I love the local spin on it, the bringing the local businesses and connecting them to local high schools. But I think we need to make it bigger. Let's go out. Let's see what's happening with our local colleges, and what conversations are happening. So let's reach out to our MPPs and MPs so that they can connect us to the bigger picture. I think the last thing we want to do is operate in silos. Everybody doing the same thing, but stepping over each other's toes. Yeah. Let's see what others are doing and join that conversation and bring Grimsby businesses to the playground.
No, absolutely agree 100%. I think what this engagement with this business owner did was demonstrate that there was a spark around this, and now we have to fan that spark and turn it into a flame. And to your point, I don't think that's something I or we as a committee can do on our own. There's people doing great things already in this regard, and if we can partner with them and build our capacity to do that, that's great. I think this business might be a good pilot to see how some of this happens, and then from that we would build a more robust and broader program. I think to your point, you're hearing this in Hamilton. This is not a Niagara problem. It's not a Niagara challenge. So I think there's going to be opportunity to create a bit of a program that may find a real home here in Grimsby, but we'll bring in the different pieces from learnings from the other communities as well. We don't need to recreate the wheel. I like to work smarter, not harder, but totally appreciate the feedback. Okay. The last sort of item I'd like to bring up on this part of the agenda is there was, and just for your edification, there was a recent program put out through the province very quickly. I know Rebecca at the Chamber is aware and has been pushing this out to her members. And I know Mike at the DIA has as well. And I'm pushing it out to the folks that meet the eligibility criteria. But there is a grant program through the province where businesses in the retail, accommodations, and food and beverage sector, repair and maintenance, and personal services sectors can apply for $1,000 towards PPE. And the interesting part about this is $1,000 isn't going to change the world, but it helps, and it is retroactive. So it allows for folks who have already made the expenditure and who might not necessarily have the financial wherewithal to further that, to get some of that funding back, then to again leverage it to purchase and utilize additional PPE. So that's just a heads up. I can send a link to that, and I'll be pushing it out through the town's social media channels as well. And I've been pushing it out on an ad hoc basis to the folks that seem to fit the eligibility criteria. It came out very quickly, but again, $1,000 isn't going to change the world, but every little bit, every incremental support we can provide or shine a light on so that folks know and are aware of it, I think is something that we owe it to our constituent businesses and community to do. So I know, Rebecca, you've been pushing that out to your members as well, and I really encourage everyone to take advantage of that. Okay, so I think that was it for new business. Devan, sorry, I only have the first page of the agenda here. Okay, sorry about that, folks. So that's the staff update portion. So we'll move on to item C, which is the priority mapping exercise review. So if you all recall, when we met last, because it was early on in my tenure.
Sorry
in this
to just
role,
jump in. May I just get a motion, a mover and a seconder, just to receive Adam's staff update for information, please. So just a mover and a seconder for that. Perfect. Thanks, Richard, and thank you. And all those in favor? Perfect. Thank you. Sorry, go ahead.
No problem. Thank you, Jen. So this was the sort of exercise that we did as a group, and it was really intended to get that barometric check at the time of where the committee, where the group, both as a member of the committee and individually, thought some of the early priorities for the committee and for myself in the staff role might be. So I wanted to bring to you a very high level overview of what came out of that, because I didn't want you to think it went into a black hole. And I also wanted to show you the outcomes, but then sort of remind everyone that as we move towards developing that economic development strategy and action plan, this will be some of what informs the initial thinking. And again, did not want you to think that I let this go into a black hole. There was some interesting feedback, some of which I expected, some of which I didn't necessarily expect. So, Ben, if we could share the screen to show some of the feedback from that. Okay, so if y'all recall, this was the sort of paper exercise that we did. We had 14 items that, based on sort of my first couple of weeks on the job, I started to recognize may or may not be priority areas, and I wanted to get the feedback from the committee. So you all, thank you very much. You all completed the exercise and a lot of you provided some very good feedback on that last page, which I'm taking into account as well. But this is sort of the high level overview of some of the findings. So what I did was I looked at the feedback and I mapped it. So basically I took each question and mapped the results. And it's a pretty straightforward approach where you have plan, do, eliminate, and delegate. So I'm trying to, through this exercise, take a look at the 14 items and see which are, again, red light, yellow light, green light, which are ones that for now just aren't priority and we can sort of take off the table. And then some are green. So clearly you can see in this case, there was really tight consensus around this being a priority item. So I went through all 14 and mapped them all. I don't necessarily want to go through each of them at this point. I think we can do that offline and as a team separately. But just in terms of the high level findings, this is sort of how they shook out in terms of priority. And one of the things that I did sort of expect, and it was, how do I say this? It was kind of the opposite of what I expected, but in the same sort of space. I expected there to be a little more misalignment in priority, and there wasn't. For the most part, everyone was very closely aligned. What I did find though was that even the red light items, many of them were ultimately quite high from a priority perspective. So it almost came out that everything was a priority, which is kind of maybe what I expected. Some of them I thought and I knew would fall off the table, and a couple of them did, but the yellow lights and the red lights were still scoring quite high. So I think at this point, it's really about finding how they relate to each other. So when I grouped them, I took those dots and I came up with averages and just found very clear breaks in those numbers. And this is how they sort of, this is what the feedback looks like. So obviously the green light items are ones that as a committee and as we talk about how we move forward, we may want to consider. And this will sort of be a living document, and we'll hope to revisit it maybe in 3 or 6 months. Maybe some different priorities will make the initiative, maybe some will fall off. But just so that you are aware, this is how that shook out. And I think we'll be using, again, some of this to inform our future discussions on strategy and priority setting and resource allocation. So I just wanted to share that with you. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have and have a discussion about anything you see on the screen here that may or may not be intuitive or that you just want to chat about. Okay. Okay, so if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Are you going to share that around after the meeting?
Sure, certainly. Yeah, certainly. Just make a note of that.
Adam,
Yes.
if I may, again, thank you for that work, and the analysis of it too is very good. I just with where the red light stop sign, does that mean we don't move forward, or was that just it was at the bottom of the list, those items, Adam? Yeah, because
So
as you mentioned, every I'll call it bracket of information you were looking for was to me it was all high level, very important. So yeah, if you can just give your thoughts to the red light part. Yeah.
Sure. So it's a bit of a utility approach where if we had $1, where would we spend it? So I use dollar, but if we had a certain resource and we had to leverage it to the greatest and highest use, we would probably start at the top and take those initiatives in terms of priority, impact, and then as we went down. So it's not to say that the red are things we won't do. It's just at this point, it wouldn't be where our focus would be best spent in terms of priority, in terms of focusing our resources and energy. So while right now they may be red lights, as we address some of the green light items and we can put process in place, or we can complete initiatives, they may come off the priority list because we've addressed them, and then the reds may move into yellow, or new priorities may come into the mix. But it's not to say that the red lights we're not going to do it. It's just right now they are not the priority items according to the feedback that we got through the committee.
If I may, too, just my last comment. Obviously, there's a financial component to doing all of the items in there. So yeah, as you mentioned, if we have the dollars, what percentage of dollars, how does it get disposed of, so to speak? But that's great. Thank you very much. That's good clarification for me. Thank you.
Sure. Richard?
Yeah, just a comment that some of those things on that list, right, are already going on in other venues, and it might just be a communications issue as opposed to an activity. For example, there's all kinds of seminars being run by multiple organizations on government grants and programs, and just giving visibility to those, doesn't cost any money, right? And provides a service to the community just for information.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Point well taken. I think that item in particular, using that as an example, I think the thought was, would it be valuable for Grimsby to champion their own, or the committee to champion its own workshop around grants and subsidies? So I think you're absolutely right, where we don't need to undertake that because it's being managed somewhere else. That would be something we would look to leverage for sure. Okay, any other questions? No? Okay, so we'll move on to item D, which was something we touched on early, and I wanted to revisit. Was this idea of having some working groups developed to start actioning a couple of items that I think we all agree we need to start moving on. And if we disagree, let's have that discussion. But one was the activation of the BRNE program funded through the RED grant. And so I thought I would table the idea of having a BRNE working group, which would be made up of myself and certain members of the committee. And then we would have a second working group, which would be sort of ideating around how in the new year we will start to develop a 5-year economic development strategy. And so that would be a separate working group. The thought is that we can be a lot more nimble if we're in working groups as opposed to the whole committee, because of the requirements around administration of these meetings, posting the agendas and needing quorum and all these sorts of things. If we do that through the working group approach, we can be much more nimble. We can find when meetings will work, and we can, each working group can decide, hey, we want to do one meeting a week on a set time, or we want to do a meeting a month and we're going to play it by ear when the meeting happens. It's really just about allocating our resources to the best and highest use. Again, I want to make sure that we're respecting all of your time and energy, because it's not, it's a volunteer thing that you're doing. And so I want to make sure that we respect your time. So those would be the two areas that I think at this point we would do well to focus on, which is again, the BRNE activation and the 5-year economic development strategy. So I know certain members of the committee have expressed interest in being on one or the other working group. Anecdotally, we may have had a conversation, but I would be happy to, either have the discussion now about who, first of all, if that approach, finds favor with the group, if there's any way that we can improve that approach, or if there are any issues or sort of cautions that we'd like to chat about, and what I would open that up. None of this is at this point a foregone conclusion. It's just, I would suggest that if we're going to start actioning both of these initiatives, that through working groups will allow us to be a lot more nimble, and will allow us to use our resources as efficiently as possible. So happy to open it up to discussion. Okay. Oh, Councilor Cadwell, Chair Cadwell.
You're on mute, Dave.
There we go. Unmute myself. Yeah, thank you very much, Adam. I like the idea, and just my thoughts, and I'd like to hear Councillor Ritchie too. Being that there's two of us as members of the representing council, and you're looking at two different groups, I think definitely Councillor Ritchie be on one and myself being on the other, so we can bring some feedback back to council. Obviously, the group too, the committee, but that's just one. That's what I would like to see, anyways. That we're not on the same group together. That's all. Yeah, thank you.
Sure. And that's fair. And one of the things I think I want to mention too is, if you are on, for example, one committee, it doesn't mean that you can't necessarily be engaged and involved with the other. It's just that you're not beholden to do that. It's not a requirement. If you have interest and you want to be engaged, you can be as engaged as you want. It's just that the two working groups will have a mandate, and the members of those working groups will have to make sure that mandate is being advanced in a meaningful way. But by all means, we're a committee, we're a group, we're a team, and so if you have interest in working with the other group as well, that would be great. It would be fantastic. But I take your point, and I think the idea of having Councillor Ritchie on one and yourself, Chair Cadwell, on another is a great idea. I'll leave that to you to decide which you'd like to be on. I don't know if anyone else intuitively, gravitates towards one or the other, and you want to suggest that now, or if you want to take it away and we can maybe early next week, I can send out an email to poll everyone. But Alejandra?
I was just going to add my 2 cents, which was simply, I love the idea, but I would recommend that instead of making rash decisions right now, we were given time to process,
sure,
have an idea of what each might entail, kind of thing. So.
Okay, no, well taken. What I'll do is I have some of this on paper, but okay, I have some of this on paper, and it's just my downloading my thoughts onto a scratch pad. I will put that together in a more salient form and send it out, and it'll basically be, in my mind's eye, what would this look like, so that everyone can take it, redline it, have your input, feedback, say. That said, I think there is a bit of a sense of urgency around the activation of the BRNE working group especially. So we'll balance that off, but point well taken. I will endeavor to circulate that by the end of the week, and then maybe we'll do an email, sort of an email approach to getting some feedback in early to mid next week. Thank you for that, Alejandra. Appreciate it. Councilor Ritchie?
Thank you. So I just wanted to comment also with Councillor Cadwell's comments there that, there's a lot of people in this group, obviously, that have a lot more knowledge than I do. I'm very new to the whole sector here. So I'm available for anything and all. So either committee, I think that, again, for me to move forward to when we're reporting to council, the more that I can understand, the better I can articulate ourselves, the more success we'll have on the council. So I'm available for anything and all. So just put that out there.
Okay, appreciate that. Okay, any other questions? I think we've got a path forward, at least in the short term on this, which will be some notes sent out and some consideration. Think about it over the weekend. What I'll do is I'll put some preliminary, what I consider preliminary timelines, so you can see where the bulk of work might happen. You can look at your schedules and look at your availability. Again, want to make sure that we're not overloading you, but that you have opportunity to provide meaningful input to this. I'm so thrilled with the composition of this committee. We've got such great people on it that I think we're going to do great work on these initiatives. Alejandra?
I was just going to suggest also giving us a timeline for that decision. So given that we want to move quickly, perhaps throwing out a timeline for that as well.
Monday, Ali, Monday.
Oh, I will make a note of that and make sure that it's in the email that goes out this week. Appreciate that.
Yeah, Adam, just one question.
Yes, please.
Do these working groups need, I want to keep going, do they need terms of reference or scope, or can they just exist as ad hoc subcommittees with an understanding of this committee?
So I think great question, and I've talked to Devan about this, and the feedback is that there doesn't necessarily need to be the formality of on the administrative side. I think it behoove us to develop terms of reference as a working group so that we have a clear idea of where we're going. But in terms of when we meet, what sort of administration has to happen, the formality sort of falls away, which allows us to be a little more nimble. But I think it's a good idea, to your point, to develop a terms of reference so that as we're working towards the goals and objectives, we all are clear on what success looks like, on where we're going and sort of how we're getting there. So I think in that first meeting as a working group, if that's the way we sort of approach this, that will be early discussions. It will be, what success look like for this working group? And with the BR&E component, there's a bit more structure to it. With the strategy side, that is very much sort of wide open. We can leverage best practices and approaches to developing strategy, but I think that's going to be for the working group to decide and bring back to the committee. And again, it's not to say that if the committee is 4 people on one side and 4 people on the other side, that whatever the working group brings forward is a foregone conclusion. We would then bring in the other group to have opportunity to provide feedback. But I think in terms of reference to get us going and get us pointing in the right direction is a really solid first step.
Yeah, I asked that part of a larger question because I'm not in the terms of reference for ECDEV itself, for GDAC itself. We might need a line that says from time to time the committee may strike ad hoc sub blah blah blah, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And also, I'm not sure the terms of reference for GDAC contemplate that there's an ECDEV officer either. Right? So we don't have to do it now, but just at some point in the future, if we're updating terms of reference for ECDEV, we should probably look at the fact that you exist in this role now.
Good point. Thank you. Yeah, I will take that back and have a discussion with Devan about that. I think having Devan as a resource from the clerk's perspective, really understanding those nuances is going to be helpful. So we'll take that back. I think we talked early on about how the committee may change a little bit given the new context. I think that's going to be a bit of an ongoing discussion for the next little bit, with the focus being on the BR&E thing, but the BR&E initiative. But agreed that will be something that we'll have to concern ourselves with, and it kind of dovetails well into the last item on the agenda in this section, which is the 2021 meeting schedule.
Before we jump there, can I just jump in with a motion, please? I'm sorry to keep doing this to everyone.
Okay.
So the motion that I prepared regarding the working group approach was resolved that the working group approach be approved and that each working group be comprised of 1 staff representative, which will be Adam, 1 council representative, and 2 to 3 committee members. So I'm looking for a mover and a seconder for that motion. Perfect. Thank you, Ali. And a seconder. Perfect. Richard, thank you.
Just wanted to maybe point out if we can make a change that you said 1 counselor, but could we put 1 or 2 counselors?
Yeah, sure.
Please.
Is the mover and seconder okay with that? Perfect. Thank you. And Chair Cadwell, do you want to call the vote on that?
It's on mute.
Oh.
Maybe it's the Zoom curse.
You're still on mute. So all those in favor, I'll do it for you. Thank you.
So again, that dovetails
Oh, God, you didn't hit the button.
dovetails well into the last item, which is the 2021 GDAC meeting schedule. So I will circulate this. I guess the major takeaway is that given we are going to move towards this working group approach and being respectful of everyone's time, I thought I'd like to propose the idea of an every other month GDAC meeting in this format, where the entire committee comes together and the subcommittee or the working groups would give update. And then that allows us not to have to meet every month, but every other month, and we would meet as our working groups. Again, I think it just promotes efficiency and effectiveness in how we administer this. So I put that out there. I do have a schedule again that I will submit. It's the third or last Wednesday of every other month starting January. The exact dates again I can circulate, but just thoughts if anyone has any strong thoughts either way. I see 2 thumbs up. That's great. Okay. All right. So let me circulate that. If anyone has any, you may know ahead of time you can't make a meeting. That's fine, and may give us time to move it. But it is the third or last Wednesday so far that's been targeted. 8:30 in the morning. If that still works for everyone. Sorry, Richard.
The only comment is that the meetings, there are significant council timed events, budget being one, that kind of thing. So if input's required, then whether ad hoc meetings are required or the meeting agenda meets those timelines, then just to make sure we're synchronized right? Because this is an input committee.
Right. Okay. So I will work with Devan closely on that.
Good.
Okay. So that, I think, was all in terms of new business. Bi-monthly? Bi-monthly, sorry. Okay. So Devan has just indicated that we should have a motion with respect to taking 2021 regular GDAC meetings to a bi-monthly or every other month schedule. So I'll put that motion on the table. Richard, seconded Alejandra. Great.
And just a consensus, yeah.
All in favor? Great.
Thank you.
All right. So in terms of next meetings, we've got the January 20th meeting, January 20th, 2021. So hopefully between now and then we will have some time to connect as working groups and follow up on some of the issues and items and things that we talked about in this meeting. I will circulate again a couple of items. I have a couple of action items in terms of information that I will circulate. And unless anybody has anything else, I think Devan, we go to closed session. Oh yes, sorry, Michael. Yes, your new business item on the heritage study and the impact on ECDEV.
Yeah, I just wanted to hear this group's opinion and ideas around that, and hear what staff is, if we could, is suggesting around this study. I mean, this would be one of the biggest heritage districts in Canada. I don't know or think that this has been well thought through on a long-term scale, and the potential damage that it could do to homeowners and businesses in that area, considering there is a new hospital coming on, and you're going to possibly limit the activity that you can do around it from an economic perspective. So I just wanted to get this group's consensus and possibly, put a motion on the table for council to consider from this group, if we can all agree on a standpoint.
We'll open that up to the group if anyone wants to comment on that.
Motion on the table to do what, Michael? Sorry.
Just give council our thoughts on this study and the potential impacts of it.
If I may chime in, Adam.
Please do. Sorry. Yes, please do.
No, in the past, GDAC has brought forward some comments and more so not so much emotion, but again, now that we're a standing committee on our own, yes, as Michael has mentioned, I just my own personal opinion, I think a motion would be as a good thing to do. Sorry. I'm just thinking how it was done in the past. Yeah, a lot of times it was just comments that was brought forward, again, through the planning department, through to council. But now that we are an independent standing committee, I personally, I'm okay with that. And just a comment too, I know Michael has experience with heritage studies. Sorry.
Districts, not studies.
Yeah, sorry, I went, I can hardly wait till we get back together in a room. Sorry, folks. Yeah.
If I may step in. So Grimsby Economic Development still is an advisory committee. So I do recommend that your comments do flow through Adam, who could provide them formally to Antonetta, the director of planning, in her consultation and review with everyone. So that's the way I would recommend we approach this. And then perhaps we can have an end date to provide those comments to Adam so we can get them to Antonetta, the director of planning, in a timely manner.
It sounds like a great idea. Yeah.
I think what.
And just to clarity, those are comments from the committee as a whole. Okay.
Yeah, so I think if I may, and Michael, tell me if I'm off base on your sentiment, but I think what we could do is gather the feedback from the committee and develop a sort of very short position statement that we could take to Antonetta as the director of planning, that sort of takes all of our thoughts and puts it into one salient document that can be on behalf of the committee, and I would just be administering it, typing it, and walking it over to Antonetta. So, if you have one or two bullet points about some feedback, I can incorporate that, and then I'll circulate it for everyone to take a quick look at before I submit that to Antonetta. So, Mike, does that align with sort of your thoughts and expectation? Okay.
Are you going to do that in open session or closed session?
So I think this is going to go to staff, from staff to staff. So the comments would be from the GDAC committee.
Correct.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Would be from the GDAC committee directly to the director of planning. And then she would use that as input to her processes.
Sorry, are we having this discussion today? Right.
Oh.
Do this work, and is that an open session or closed session? Was the question.
So it is an open session.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, and I don't think it was intended, because the item got on the agenda just recently, that we would have this conversation now. It would be more a takeaway, and you could provide a few bullet points at your leisure. Obviously, we'd like to get them by, let's say, Wednesday of next week, and that would be great.
Okay. Sounds good.
And then, the only perspective I haven't had a chance to talk to Dave or Kevin on this directly since before the vote. Right. So the only perspective I have is what's been put in the paper. So maybe if Dave and Kevin can share, what actually happened at council and what the next steps are, so we're all clear on what really is going on, and what the expected next steps are, plus the timeline.
Councillor Cadwell, Councillor Ritchie.
Councillor Ritchie, if I may just take a bit of a lead. I see our CAO Harry Schlang is there. Maybe Harry could give us the committee an update to the direction that went back to council. If he wouldn't mind, I'd appreciate that. Just for good clarity. Thank you.
You're on mute, Harry. Harry, you're on mute.
Thank you, Councillor Cadwell. I think I'd prefer if Devan and I could look at the exact motions that were then referred to. December 24 first, this was sent back to Heritage Committee. So I'd prefer that, Devan and I actually send that out to the committee, exactly what was stated and when, and maybe a bit of background from council's comments, and get that to the committee so it's factual.
I just don't want the only information to be what's coming from the paper. Right. So thank you.
Good, good. Thanks, Harry.
See, already my facts were wrong. I think it's coming back to council December 21st, but it was sent back to Heritage Committee after the last council meeting. So we'll get the facts together, get them out to all of committee.
And just if we're done that discussion, I've drafted a motion to move this forward. So I'll need a mover and seconder, but it reads that resolved that GDAC members provide their comments regarding the Heritage District study and the impact on economic development to Adam for formal submission to the Director of Planning. So
you should move it.
Perfect. And a seconder? Perfect. Thank you.
Great.
And all those in favor? Thanks so much.
Thank you for bringing that to the group, Michael. Appreciate it. So then administratively, are we on to next meeting? And
I have one more item on new business.
Oh, sure.
It's not huge. Right. We need enough, normally there's a mayor's breakfast activity that goes on that we'd be working on now. Right? Do we need something formal that says the mayor's breakfast is being postponed? Right, in this cycle? Ali, I can't remember when it happened last year. I thought it was November, but maybe not. I can't. But as we need, and then I have another question about, since Rebecca, not Rebecca. Anyway, the DIA. Do we have this DIA representation on this committee formal, and are we replacing it with someone else from the DIA? Or is Adam, are you covering that now?
Good question. I think I'll have to take that back because I don't think I could replace the DIA representative. But that's a sort of that's a conversation I think I have to have with Devan, so I understand the implications and how we move forward with that. Because yes, I understand that there is someone from the DIA was on the committee and is not. So that's something we can take back and address internally. Appreciate that.
And the mayor's breakfast thing, Ali, when was that?
I think it was late November, Richard, after the election.
I thought it was before Christmas.
It was after the election, I remember that. Sorry.
I may jump in. The mayor's breakfast was October 16th.
Oh. Wow.
Rebecca, did you have your hand up?
I already talked.
Okay. So I was making a note.
The mayor's breakfast was October 16th, according to my records.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I was making a note when you commented. I didn't know who it was that commented. Alejandra?
I think so. Yeah. So, like Rebecca said, I think it's been traditionally held around the end of October, or mid to late October. But I don't know that we need to postpone, because I think this is something that every year we decide to do. It's not something that's a standing mandated event that we have. So
I mean, my point. So we don't have to decide today, and I didn't know that. So thanks, Ali. Right? Do we want to consider, not for this meeting, but maybe for a future meeting, given there's no timeline for COVID, holding a substitute event that's virtual? Then does the committee want to debate that at some point in the future? I don't know whether or not Jeff's interested, so we'll see.
I'll open that up to the committee. Councilor Ritchie.
Thank you. I can't say that I don't agree with trying to do something virtual, but I mean, even something virtual is very difficult to do with if you're looking at maximum 50 people with our Zoom, with that's my understanding for licensing and so forth. I could be wrong with that. I can get clarification on that. But even with 50 people, we attended just an open house the other night, and it's very difficult to do. You're always having people chiming in, people talking. Not to say that we can't, but I think if we were to look at doing something such as the mayor breakfast, that I'd like to see if there's the opportunity to do it actually in person in the future, as opposed to something virtual right now.
Kev, from a technology perspective, there's other platforms other than Zoom that accommodate that format very well.
Yeah, and I understand it's the question of security for the town, right? So that would be the biggest thing.
Yeah, okay. I'm just putting it on the table because we Zoom by, pardon the pun, we Zoom by not having a breakfast without having this. Ali, you're on mute.
I think contemplating in person at this time, I wouldn't say that's the best idea if we're given the recommendations that are coming from government right now. But also I wanted to say, if the goal is to create a platform for the mayor and council and maybe economic development to address the community, we might look at what else is happening, what else might be happening through the chamber, what else might be happening through the DIA. I don't know, that could allow us to collaborate with what others are doing and create that platform, give that opportunity for connection to community, and at the same time bringing the mayor onto the conversation with whoever we partner, such as the chamber. It brings credibility, and it brings kind of more people to the table to something that may be already going on. Just a thought.
Rebecca? Go ahead, Rebecca.
Thanks. Alejandro, thanks for bringing that up. And I just wanted to kind of formally extend this. I know I have kind of informally spoken to almost everyone here, but the chamber, we hold regular virtual events connecting our members, and anyone from GDEC, council, or staff is welcome to attend at any point in time, just to get a pulse of what businesses are talking about and to engage with some of the business members. So if you want to, I can easily add you to our email list. We would welcome any participation from, like I said, GDEC, from staff or council from the town of Grimsby at any of these meetings. I think it's an important connection piece for our business community and some of the people driving economic development.
Great. Thank you, Rebecca. Councilor Cadwell?
Yeah, thank you, Adam. And just to Richard's two questions, I think we could reach out with regards to the representation from the DIA. I guess we could reach out to the chair and see if there's any interest to have a member on the committee. I think that's important. Also, just my comments to the mayor's breakfast. You know what? I was just thinking about the Masters golf tournament. Was just this past weekend, and they couldn't do it during the COVID, and so they found a way to do it. I just thought maybe we could look at postponing it in the fall, and maybe we can look at another date or time in next year. Or maybe again just postpone it and go in the October again of next year. These are. And I'm not trying to sound negative here, but these are very, very challenging times. And I just thought if we're able to postpone it to another time and date, that would also reflect and help that from GDAC and with Adam's good work that he's doing as our economic development officer, we could have some more information probably to bring forward just as part of the agenda to the mayor's breakfast. Yeah, it's just my thoughts. I'm leaning more towards let's maybe look at another time frame to do it because of what we're dealing with right now. That's just throwing my comments in. Thank you.
So, Councillor Campbell, thank you for that. I've just been reminded by Devan that this item isn't on our agenda, so that her suggestion would be that we put this on the agenda for the January 20th meeting, and that gives us time between now and then to flush out any unique, innovative ideas that we might have, and we can bring them to that meeting. And then I don't think we would do anything between now and then anyway. So this gives us some time to let it percolate. And to Richard's point, there are maybe other technologies, there's other unique ways we can maybe look at what other people are doing to get together in COVID. Wow, obviously.
My attempt is just to table it so we can deal with it at a future meeting.
Perfect. Okay, understood.
Okay.
Councilor Ritchie, did you have anything? You had your hand up?
Yeah, I was going to talk a little. I don't mean to do anything in purpose right now. I just want, or in person, I just wanted to clarify. But as we're looking to the future and they're looking to the possibility of a vaccine coming out in April, I like the idea of what the chamber has and to look at dates, say in the fall of next year, because the vaccine there may be something out at that time. So yeah, it's great to talk about the next.
Thank you. Okay, so I think our next meeting is January 20th, 8:30. We will again have some feedback later this week about the working group approach. And so I think you'll find that we will probably have more email communication going forward than we have, because now we're sort of aligned on a couple of major initiatives. And because we're going to the every other month, I will keep track of correspondence, and I will, if you have something that you'd like to share with the group, and I don't know, can't find their email, you can send it to me and I can push it out, use me as a resource. But I think the 20th is the next meeting, and I look forward to that. Again, we will all be talking between now and then, but formally, because we're not going to meet as a committee. It's coming, Christmas. Just wanted to wish everybody a happy holiday. It sounds so strange at this point, but it's the last meeting before then. So anyway, okay.
Great.
So then we need a motion to adjourn. Is that?
Nope, Councillor Cadwell, if you just want to close the meeting with any remarks and then adjourn, I think we're good to go.
All right. Yeah. Thank you very much, Devin. And thank you, Adam, for taking a very good lead role into the meeting. And also thank you to the members of the committee for your comments in that. And I look forward to our meeting in January. And yeah, and wish everybody a safe and happy holiday too. Thank you. From those comments, I'd like to declare the meeting adjourned then to all the committee members. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.